Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. In today's gaming news, the Skyforge closed beta starts soon, Blizzard says nope to FOV sliders, and we recap this week's new releases. I know it's been a while since the last Force feed, I apologize. I spent a couple of days at PAX East and I had a fantastic time checking out a bunch of new games, and you'll be seeing coverage from everything that I saw over the next few days. But for now, let's jump into today's gaming news. First of which is that Skyforge is entering closed beta tomorrow. This is a fast-paced action combat MMO set in a fantasy sci-fi universe where you play as a newly born immortal on the path to becoming a god. The game will feature a classless system where players can switch between various roles depending on their playstyle or needs, including the crowd-controlling Cryomancer, the long-range Gunner, the single-target Paladin, or the AoE Berserker. The game will be entering into the closed beta once again tomorrow on March the 11th, and I've got myself some access, so I'm gonna jump in, and as I always do with MMOs, go in and get super obsessed for a couple of days to a few weeks, and then just quit and complain about stuff. I like the way the combat looks. It reminds me very much so of how Neverwinter played. It is action combat, but you're rooted in place when you're casting your spells and swinging your sword and stuff like that. And I remember enjoying the act of playing Neverwinter, so hopefully I'm gonna enjoy this game as well. Next couple of days, expect some video coverage from me, and I'll give you some of my initial impressions. Next up, Blizzard's upcoming FPS Overwatch apparently won't be having any FOV options. In a recent Reddit post made by a Blizzard representative, it was stated that Overwatch currently has a fixed vertical FOV of 60. This means that at 16:9 ratio, you'll have a horizontal FOV of about 92. Went on to state that there are no plans at this time to implement an FOV slider to the game. The rationale here is that we want to avoid creating a situation of haves and have-nots, where those who are aware of the slider are able to gain an advantage over those who aren't. You mean people who don't know that options and menus are a thing? I don't understand who these people are who don't know about FOV sliders. And unless, of course, we're talking about the inevitable future of Overwatch coming to the console and them wanting to just have a set FOV for the game, that could quite possibly be it. Now, I want you to know that I am typically someone who gets very, very motion sick and nauseous when playing many first-person titles. Many times I do have to widen the FOV. With that said, I've spent a couple of hours so far with Overwatch between a hands-on event a few weeks ago and then at PAX East. I've spent a significant amount of time with this game. I've experienced no nausea from it whatsoever, and that's coming from someone who typically has that problem. So what that leads me to believe is that they've put in the time and effort to try to make sure it's at a position where it's good if they're going to lock it, but at the same time I realize this isn't going to be the same for everybody, and just because I typically have an issue, but I don't with Overwatch from the time that I've played it so far, doesn't mean that it won't be a problem for other people. And therein lies the rub. This is the concern, because if this game is unplayable for certain people, then they can't play it. So, I mean, that could be a problem. But just remember, if this really is such a big issue for you, make sure you voice your opinion, make sure that you complain, because Blizzard has been known to eventually, it might take them a while, but eventually take community feedback and implement that into the game. So if you really want an FOV slider, go out there in the forums, send out Twitter messages, be as annoying as possible, because that's how you get things done here on the internet. Alright guys, last up today, I just wanted to recap some of this week's new releases. First up, we have got Ori and the Blind Forest, a 2D Metroidvania platformer with a gorgeous art style. I'm not kidding, this is visually one of the most pleasing games I've seen in quite some time. Next, we have got Cities Skylines, a city building game that looks to one-up what SimCity left off with. It's got many of the same features of SimCity, except you can build bigger cities. It's not quite as polished, it doesn't look quite as good, but obviously they don't have as much as a budget as EA had to make SimCity, and overall, what I've played of City Skylines, I have enjoyed. And then lastly, we have got Hotline Miami 2, a 2D action game that we'll be picking up after the events of the original. Alright guys, that is going to do it for today's episode of The Feed. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to comment in the comment section below about any of the topics discussed here today. Once again, this has been Force, and you I've just been force-fed. Well, Force, I noticed you didn't call us nerds today. Did you buckle to the internet pressure? No, it actually isn't that. I did it once because I thought it was funny, and then I saw just how crazy people got over it, so I just did it a couple more times, just to kind of you know, you poke the bear. When the bear comes, rawr, you poke the bear because it's funny until he bites your head off and stops watching your videos and your view count and sub count drops and then you don't make any money and then you have to go do something else for a job. And I don't want to go back to bartending or stocking bananas on a shelf. So I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna conform. You guys want me to conform? How do you want me to do this? Arms to the side? How should I wave? Should I wave like this? Should I smile like this? I'm just trying to please you. What do you want me to do?